kind of remind you of some of the objectives that we have for this release. And really for the last few releases, this has been our goal, which is to provide you all a best converged database. And what we mean by a converged database is that the database engine supports many data types and data models, such as relational, JSON, graph, and so forth, and that it supports many workload types. So not just transactional or analytical, but also machine learning, streaming data, and so forth. And our primary objective for all of this is really to provide you the most productive database engine to develop any apps and to support your users. So this is our goal, and this is what we've worked towards in 21C as well, which is the next database release. One of the reasons why we are taking this approach of creating a converged database is that we see our competitors creating single-purpose proprietary databases that require you to do a lot of work to integrate the various data silos. And also it's hard to operate and to manage. And of course, security is also a concern, because now you have all of these different security policies and paradigms that you have to learn and train in order to be able to enforce. So with a single database engine that has the same availability, security, and even performance and scalability policies, that we think that it'll make it really easy for you to create any apps, including apps that we haven't even thought of. So this is a quick summary of some of the benefits, well, actually the problems that you would avoid if you use a converged database. So these are things that we feel come along with the use of many single-purpose databases. One other kind of unique characteristic of Oracle database is that you can use the same engine on premises or in the cloud. And the cloud could be hosted or co-managed or fully managed, like our autonomous database. And the idea being that you could develop and deploy anywhere and enjoy the kind of portability that has been part of Oracle's DNA from the very beginning. And as far as our cloud footprint, so we now have 29 regions. Our latest one is in Chile, Santiago. We have many more planned, and as you can see, our Azure Interconnect regions is also growing. The number of those regions are growing because we realize that for our customers and partners that a multi-cloud strategy is very important, and we realize that you have workloads in other clouds. So we're forming these partnerships as we have with Microsoft to ensure that you have that choice of the cloud that best suits your particular need. And so because we're growing our cloud footprint and we are really committed to transitioning to a cloud-first paradigm, we are releasing Oracle Database 21C first on Oracle Cloud. And specifically, we will make it available on Autonomous Database Free tier, as well as Database Cloud Service. Why are we releasing it on Autonomous Database Free tier first? Well, the main thing is so that it's really easy for anybody to be able to take advantage of the latest and greatest versions of our database by basically using the free tier. So it's, you know, it's not something you have to pay for. And some of you might have already tried Autonomous Database. You know, to create an instance of Autonomous Database is really simple. You just fill in a couple of parameters and then click create. You get your database in under 2 minutes. So how much easier can it get, right? So we want to remove any kind of friction for people to try out our latest release. As far as Database Cloud Service, we will make it available both in VM, rack and single instance, as well as bare metal, but it will only be initially available on a single instance. We will be releasing 21C on other cloud services as well as on-premises. So starting about mid to late March timeframe 2021, we will have 21C available on Linux, Windows, Exadata, and so forth. All right, and this particular slide is just a quick reminder that we do have other releases that are still supported, but many of them are soon to be end of life. So for example, 11.204 is essentially end of extended support as of December 31st, 2020. However, we do have a special program for customers who still need a bit of time to upgrade to 19C. So there's something called market-driven support, and there's more information if you're interested if you go to the My Oracle support portal. The other releases like 12.102 and 12.201, those are also coming off of extended support within the next 2 years or so. So it's best to start planning your upgrade path. And 21C is what we call an innovation release. So innovation releases are different from long-term releases such as 19C in that 21C in innovation release will only have 2 years of premier support. And so, if you are worried about having to upgrade every 2 years, then you might consider staying on our long-term releases, and then just go from long-term to long-term release. But if you are creating new applications or extending existing applications and you need the new functionality that are available in innovation releases, where you don't want to wait for the next long-term release, then of course you're welcome to use the innovation releases, and they are supported for production workloads as well. And this is a slide that essentially shows you when we are planning for our next long-term release. So 23C at this moment looks like the next long-term release. And that means it will have 5 years of premier support and 3 years of extended support. All right, so this is generally our release time frame, and hopefully this will help you with your planning purposes as well. Now let's go ahead and dive into 21C. As I said, 21C is our continuation of providing more capabilities to support a multi-workload, multi-model, and multi-tenancy kind of environment. So let's go through and talk about each one of these areas. So for multi-model, I kind of picked out a few features to share with you. Specifically around different data types that we're supporting and different, for example, blockchain tables, enhancements in Graph, and our support now in JavaScript. Some of you might have heard that we released something called Gradual VM probably about 3 years ago, and it's essentially an environment where you can use almost any of the popular programming languages to develop your code and then execute within that VM. And so now we have that capability embedded in the database, and we call it a multilingual engine. The first language that we're supporting with this multilingual engine is JavaScript. We chose JavaScript because it is the most ubiquitous programming language for web applications out there, and we really want to have developers work with Oracle Database, and we felt that this would be one way to help them engage by having a language that they code in be supported and inside the database. Now, the other reason for doing this is that if the data is already in the database, it makes sense to have the code essentially co-reside with the data. And so this way you eliminate the expensive network round trips of taking the data out to process it. It's all resident within the database. And of course, you also enjoy some of the benefits of things like automatic data type mapping within the database between the JavaScript code and the database code. You still have access to the JavaScript libraries, which is I know one of the reasons why JavaScript is popular is because there is a really large collection of JavaScript libraries out there that are open source that you could take advantage of, so that you don't have to write your, the more complex coding from scratch. So those are some of the reasons why we've introduced this, and the way to use this is by invoking a PL/SQL code, PL/SQL package called dbms_mle. And so, so hopefully, if you're a JavaScript developer, this is good news for you in terms of being able to use JavaScript in database. Another capability in this area is the binary JSON data type. So we've supported JSON blobs, large objects, for a number of releases now, and we actually do have customers using that capability in production. However, we want to make sure that not only are we providing a converged database that is in some ways a jack of all trades, but we also want to be the master of all, meaning that whatever we introduce and offer through the database engine, we want it to work as well as it can be, performance-wise, scalability. And so in this case here, we realize that by making it a binary data type, that performance definitely can increase. And through our testing, we've seen that scans of JSON binary documents are up to 10 times faster than the large object format, and updates are also much faster. The other thing too is that this allows us to better offer things like indexing, so we can index any of the JSON elements. We can also index multi-value JSON arrays, and of course all the benefits of parallel SQL processing and optimization is available. And you can support very complex joins across both JSON documents and relational tables and so forth. So net is that this is just improving on what we had already offered in terms of JSON support in the past. And this is an example of some of the things that we're doing to ensure that whatever we offer in our Converged database continues to be as good as you would expect some of our other capabilities. So this is an example where we're seeing 2 times the performance benefits with Oracle JSON binary type than with AWS Document DB or MongoDB. And we'll continue to do this kind of evaluation for other data types and models like graph and spatial. And then speaking of graph, so graph and spatial, it used to be an extra cost option, and we realized that many people have not taken advantage of these capabilities in the database because they don't want to have to pay extra. And so one of the things I'm trying to do as a product manager is to see what areas can we offer essentially for free, so that we encourage more people to try it out. And graph and spatial is one of the areas. We've had these features for many years, and we continue to improve on it. So with graph, for instance, in 21C, we've optimized the representation so that now you can have larger graphs without having to allocate more memory. And in fact, it uses less memory, but you don't have to modify your application code to take advantage of this enhancement. So it's just under the covers available for you. The other thing that I want to talk about a little bit in terms of a theme that you'll notice as I talk about other features is that we realize Oracle oftentimes introduce really sophisticated, complex capabilities that would be really beneficial, but they're difficult to use. And so one of the things we are now keeping in mind is how easy would it be for our customers and partners to take advantage of this. And so whenever we create something new, one of the things we kind of check off in our checklist is ease of use. And to that end, we have a new property graph visualization studio for for Oracle Graph that you can use. So if somebody who is fairly new to this area can take advantage of something like this tool to learn about graph maps and so forth. Okay, jumping on to another feature, so blockchain. Now I realize that some people see the word blockchain and they immediately think, okay, that's overhyped, and really it's you know, it's only very useful for very specific use cases. And you know, we think that while blockchain may be sort of in the trough, you know, if you look at the innovation curve there, right, it's kind of gone past the hype and is now sort of in the trough of disillusionment for some people. We still think that this is a very useful concept and approach to things like security. And in this particular case here, this is our first version of blockchain table. It's essentially a heap table. You know, it's just like any relational table. It's a heap table, but with some extra feature added on so that it is immutable. So what we mean by immutable basically is it can't be changed unless you want it to be changed. And that's a caveat I'm throwing in there because you know, the immutability is afforded by the fact that we only, once you create a table as a blockchain table, you can only insert into it, and each row is chained to the previous row through a cryptographic hash. And there are PLSQL packages available to allow you to detect whether somebody's tried to tamper with any of the rows. So those are all the things that enforces immutability. However, we realize too that there's some practical things that you want to be able to do with it. For example, in Europe, there is the need to comply with GDPR, and what that means is that you know, users or people have the privilege or the ability to say, I want you to forget all my records. You know, I want to be removed from your database. And we allow that. So there is a way for you to set an expiration time frame for rows that are inserted so that essentially they go away after some time. Go away meaning you actually can delete them. And the other thing too is that you can set up a policy whereby the blockchain table can be dropped after some period of inactivity. So those are things that you can use to essentially apply this to more realistic use cases. The other thing too is that the person who's inserting a row can add a certificate, so that allows the non-repudiation of their insertion. So those are some things that we've added to just make it more practical to use this capability. And one thing is that you know, we think that this is a great feature for fraud protection, and some of the things that I would describe earlier as far as capabilities fit within these different types of fraud protection. Now, our current implementation is a centralized ledger, meaning you know, unlike the distributed ledger technology that blockchain is based off of, you can't have a distributed blockchain table at this moment, but we are working on making it available in a distributed form as well. So currently it's a centralized ledger that you can implement. So this is brand new feature in the database, no extra cost, and hopefully you'll find some ways of using it. All right, let's move on to workload. So some capabilities that enable you to run various types of workloads more efficiently and more effectively. AutoML is a framework that I realize is popular in the machine learning industry, and we now can support AutoML with Oracle Database. AutoML is really targeted towards people who are not experts in machine learning, but who want to be able to take advantage of machine learning algorithms to predict and make predictions and basically get better insight out of their data. So with AutoML, It's essentially an engine or process that allows you to input the data set that you want to analyze and use as training data. You tell it what you want to predict, what value you're interested in predicting, and it'll go through and select the best algorithm to support what you want to do. It identifies data that'll best predict the outcome, and then it'll tune the model using parameters that it thinks makes the most sense. And then ultimately what it gives you is a ranked list of machine learning algorithms. Now, not only do we have this capability in the 21C, but we also are creating a user interface. And so this particular UI will probably be available slightly after the initial general availability of 21C. So we're looking at sometime early next year, we'll have this UI available. But again, this is going to be really, really useful, I think, for people who are just starting out in machine learning. This is a great learning tool for them to be able to just say, okay, this is the data I want, this is what I want to predict, click a button, and then for the AutoML engine to then basically spit out a list of the possible algorithms, and then provide sort of the accuracy level for each one of these algorithms to help you identify the best one to apply to your data set. So this is something that, again, we think that customers are going to be using quite a lot, and we're excited about being able to offer that. Now, machine learning used to be called, at one point in time, data mining, and then we've called it advanced analytics. And more recently, we've started calling it Oracle Machine Learning. So those are all essentially the same thing. And it's essentially a collection of algorithms that have been baked into the database. We started doing that probably over 10 years ago, and we continue to add to it so that data scientists, if they want to be able to use the most popular algorithms, they can. So this is just a short list of some of the new algorithms that we've added to the 21C database engine. And again, the idea is that instead of taking the data out of the database and processing it, why not do the processing within the database and eliminate that data movement step that when I talk to data scientists, they say that is one of the more onerous kind of tasks that they have to do when they want to run machine learning processing. So you don't have to do that with the Oracle database. Okay, jumping into another area in terms of performance for various types of workloads. So if you have an IO-bound workload, we now support the Intel Optane persistent memory chip for single instance databases. You might have heard the announcement about Exadata X8M sometime, I think, last Open World last year. And that capability is specific to Exadata and the storage system for Exadata. This here is referring to just an Oracle database, but it's single instance database where if you wanted to be able to have faster sort of IO throughput than what you would get with, let's say, flash cache or hard disks, but you don't have the money to basically the budget to buy more DRAM, which tends to be more expensive. You can use the Intel Optane persistent memory chip in your server and take advantage of PMEM for better IO. Basically, it reduces the latency for IO. The only thing that I want to point out is that because you don't have rack here, you will probably want to look at something like DataGuard to ensure availability, and then to scale out, you can use something like database sharding, which is a feature within the database. Okay, so that's PMEM. And then in terms of mixed workloads like analytic plus OLTP workload, we had introduced an option called in-memory back probably, I would say, 3 releases ago in 12C. And this allowed you to store the data in 2 formats, row format and columnar format. Some of you may actually be using this particular option. And we continue to add more capabilities to support in-memory. So a few things I wanted to kind of point out. Actually, one specific thing that I'm really excited about is the ability to apply self-managing, so that instead of you having to guess what objects to put in the in-memory columnar store, we will now be able to track the usage patterns for the data and decide when to move objects into the columnar store and when to take them out. And we automatically compress the columns as well. And so this just makes it that much easier for you to be able to use this particular feature. And hopefully, with this new feature, it'll basically encourage more customers to take advantage of this. The other thing that we've done with in-memory is that we now offer essentially a free in-memory column store up to 16 gigabytes. And so if you want to be able to try it out but not purchase the in-memory option right away, you can use this, we call it the base level in-memory. You can use base level in-memory to try it out and then decide whether you want to purchase the full license. And by the way, that particular feature, the base level in-memory, was backported to 19C. And actually, same thing with blockchain tables. Blockchain tables will be backported to 19C. I think the availability of blockchain tables in 19C is sometime in the early part of next year, probably around January timeframe. So that's the other thing I forgot to mention, is that we realize that for our customers who are on the long-term release and don't want to be going to innovation releases because they don't want to have to be upgrading that often due to the complexity of their applications, they can enjoy some of the features from the innovation releases, because we have the ability to backport some of these to the prior long-term release. So both the base level in-memory as well as the blockchain table features are available, or will be available, on 19C. Another feature with in-memory, I don't think I have a slide for that, but is the hybrid columnar hybrid scan for columnar stores. So meaning that in the past, if you have a SQL statement where some of the columns are not in columnar store, we would just default everything to row store and use the row cache, the buffer cache, to get that information, that data. And with 21C, we will be a little smarter than that and say, okay, you know what, I can get some of this data from columnar store because I know it's there, and then some of it from row store. And so you are not forced to use one or the other. It will be smart enough to know what's appropriate to use. So that's something that's new. Okay, database sharding. So sharding was introduced back in 12C timeframe, I believe, as well. And essentially, it's our answer to NoSQL, because it allows you to do share nothing scale out, either at the single node level or rack or single pluggable database. And we actually do have customers using this. But again, what they've told us is this is a great capability, but it's a little hard for us to figure out, how to shard our non-sharded schema, and we need some help there. So in 21C, we have this new sharding advisor tool. So the idea basically is just, okay, you have a non-sharded schema, you want to know how best to shard it. You point this tool at the non-sharded schema. It'll analyze the schema, and also look at the workload, the query workload, and then it gives you a list of possible sharded database designs, and it's ranking this list based on query performance, scalability, and even storage. So it'll say, okay, if you shard it this way, then in terms of storage, you can minimize the number of duplicate data, for example, that needs to be stored on each shard. So this is something that, as a tool, I think will help drive adoption of our sharding feature. And then if you have multiple databases that you want to essentially set up as a sharded database, this basically helps you with the migration of that scenario. Okay, so again, sharding has been around for 7+ years. It is a proven technology out there. We're continuing to enhance it, and now we're making it easier for you to adopt. And again, sharding is a workload, capability, workload support capability, and part of our Converged database story. All right, let's move on to multi-tenancy. So in terms of multi-tenancy, we've got a couple of features here. And just a reminder for those of you who aren't familiar with Oracle Multi-Tenant, this was something we introduced in 12.1, so 7+ years ago. And it is basically a solution for consolidation. So our customers who want to be able to more easily manage their databases, they can take them all, put them in a single container database, and then manage the container database as one, while each of the separate databases within the container base, called pluggable database, can be operated and used as if they were kind of a standalone database in terms of security and so forth. So a very popular feature for customers. And in 21C onward, we will only support this container database architecture. So if you're not familiar with this, definitely you can start using it in from 12C onwards. So even if you have a 12.102 database, you can try out multi-tenant. And in fact, last year we made the decision that if you're going to 19C, you can try this for free if you want to create up to 3 user-created pluggable databases per container database. And we don't limit the number of container databases, so you can have as many container databases as practical for your server. And then within each container database, you can have up to 3 user-created databases, pluggable databases, and without having to license multi-tenant. So this is something that hopefully will help customers start on this journey to adopt container database architecture. And some of our customers use this as a way to essentially have a development / QA environment, and they use some of the features for pluggable databases, such as cloning, refreshable clones, to be able to easily keep their development and QA environments up to date. Okay, so this is something I encourage all of you to definitely go check out. Now, in 21C, we will allow the data guard physical standby to be created at the PDB level. So prior to this, if you had 100 PDBs in a container database, you had to create the physical standby for the entire CDB. And then whenever, let's say, something goes wrong with one of the PDBs, you have to do a complete container database failover, which, as you know, could take a bit more time. And instead of doing that, we now allow you to set up the standby for each PDB, if you like. Of course, you could mix and choose. You could still have a complete, CDB be set up as the for a physical standby. But if you choose to have a mixture, that's fine too. And our initial release, you will have to do some of the switchover, failover somewhat manually, but we're going to be adding more support for this to do the automation, the kind of automation that you would expect from this configuration. So the other thing that some of our customers have asked us for this kind of feature is for upgrades, so that you don't have to do the upgrade for a complete set of PDBs within a CDB, but you can look at this as a way for your upgrade strategy and make it more granular. Okay, so that's multi-tenant data guard. You might also hear it referred to as per PDB standby. The other area is security. So for multi-tenant, our customers who are using container and pluggable databases for isolation, workload isolation, they ask us for additional sort of isolation. And so in 21C, we have a feature called DB Nest, which allows us to use the operating system level features to further isolate the processes, CPU memory and so forth, and further ensure that each PDB is not impacted by noisy neighbors within a system. And so this is specific to Linux. So this is an operating system specific feature, currently only available on Linux. All right, and then just a couple more items that I personally think are a great kind of productivity and user experience improvements. So SQL macros, some of you may be familiar with Excel macros, for example, where you can encapsulate a bunch of different statements within a macro and then just invoke the macro and just makes your code easier to read. And so this very similar functionality that we have here, in that we essentially have introduced a preprocessor for SQL. And so you can create a SQL macro. In this case here, this is an example returning a scalar value. And you encapsulate the statements within this macro. And then you can invoke the macro as if it were like a PL SQL function, for example, within a statement. And then what happens is before it gets sent to the optimizer, it actually will be evaluated by the preprocessor and then basically turned into this statement that you see here at the bottom, which then is sent to the optimizer. And so in terms of optimization and context switching, this is a great feature to eliminate the extra context switching between SQL, PL SQL, and then as far as the optimizer, right? You've got the SQL code that essentially can be passed through to the optimizer. So you benefit from the various optimization plans that are available. And then, portability is one of the reasons why we created this feature, because some of our ISV partners have said, look, we want to be able to support our application code more than just one database platform. And but we don't want to have to rewrite the code to be specific in terms of SQL syntax for each database. And so by using SQL macros, for example, they can, let's say that if they have an application that they initially created to run on Postgres, and Postgres has a different, let's say, string manipulation function, we can essentially take that function syntax and then convert it to the Oracle syntax using SQL macros. So, so that's just one example that our ISV's partners have said, look, this is going to be helpful for us to do this. And by the way, we can not only support scalar SQL macros, we can also support table SQL macros, meaning that you can create a function that can be referenced in the from clause, kind of like parameterized views. So it definitely is a useful feature. And the nice thing is that we have ported this SQL macros feature to 19C. In fact, you can actually use that today because I believe we made it available in the 19.7 release update. So, so today you can enjoy SQL macros, but this is officially a 21C feature. Okay, and then one last feature is the gradual password failover or rollover feature. So this is something that really is going to be helpful, I think, for application developers because one of the things that customers have said is that they have to force their users to change passwords on a periodic basis to ensure, this is one of the ways that they protect the data. And so this application security compliance is something that they have to enforce. Unfortunately, users don't always pay attention to emails about password changes, or they change password and they forget it. And so they've asked for some sort of a grace period for their users so that once they change their password, they can still use their old password for some time, so that gives them that time to learn their new password. And so this is a new profile parameter. So you can set up a profile and add this password rollover time in the profile, and then set up the grace period, whether it's a week or however many days, and then your users will be able to continue to use your old password for that time frame. And so, it seems like a small feature, but it's got some very practical uses. And this is actually another feature that we are planning to backport to 19C. I don't have an exact time frame for this particular feature. I think this will be coming soon in 19C, but this is something that we think customers will be able to take advantage of. Okay, and then just to wrap up, so I've talked a lot about features baked into the database. We of course have our, probably our best kept secret, which is integrated, feature that's integrated into the database, which is Application Express. So Oracle Application Express has been around for quite a long time, and it is tightly integrated with the database. It does have its own separate release cycle, but it is integrated with the database. And what we've found just through some recent studies around how quickly can somebody build an application using Apex versus some other paradigm, like writing it in React JavaScript code directly. And what we found is that it's actually a lot faster to create applications using Apex. Not too surprising because it is integrated with the database. And so if it is an application that has a Oracle database backend, I think Apex is definitely a better tool, more productive tool to write that kind of application. The other thing about Apex is that you don't have to set up a mid-tier to deploy it, because it's all, it is using sort of the ORDS, the Oracle REST data service capability, and tight integration with the database. So they, once you create your application, you don't have to go through the extra trouble of setting up a mid-tier. And then of course we do know that you have the performance and scalability requirements, and that's all supported through how we've architected Apex and ORDS and Oracle database. So, so if you're not using Apex today, I just wanted to put this slide here to remind you that Apex is there, and we have the latest version of Apex 20.2, which provides, some of these are some of the new features. You'll notice that we're making it even easier to use with autonomous database. So as you know, autonomous database is our fully managed database deployment type, and Apex is built into autonomous database, of course, and so we're just adding some more capabilities to make it easier to load data and to set up service levels, so you can use the SQLnet connection that best fit your particular workload service level requirements. And that is pretty much sort of a very fast tour of some of the highlights for 21C. We do have, I think, over 150 some odd new features in 21C. And probably, one of the questions you're maybe going through your mind right now is, okay, what happened to 20C? Because, we haven't made any announcements about 20C since the 20C preview came out back in February of this year. So we are not releasing a production release of 20C. All of the features in 20C, so some of you might have been looking at 20C preview, all of the features in 20C have been rolled into 21C. And we made a decision earlier this year, probably around March timeframe, when we realized that the COVID-19 pandemic was something pretty serious, and it has impact broader than just people's health, and that our customers were also looking at their business, and they probably didn't have the bandwidth to really consider taking on another new database release. So because we were actually ready to release 20C back in April of this year, and we decided, no, we're not going to ship that release. We held it back, we added more capabilities to it, and of course, some of the backporting to 19C also took place, in this time frame here. And then now we're delivering 21C as a combination of 20C plus some of the new things that we added on after April of this year. So 20C will not be coming out. And in fact, if you try 20C preview on DBCS, those instances will remain, but you will not be able to create any new 20C preview instances once 21C comes out. And we are looking at sometime essentially this week to get 21C generally available. So stay tuned for blog posts about this release. And then in summary, 21C is the latest version of the database where we're working on supporting any data, any workload, and giving you the most productive platform to build your applications, yet still providing all of the enterprise level capabilities in terms of scalability, performance, and reliability. And that is my presentation. If you'd like to keep in touch with me, feel free to reach me in email, LinkedIn, and on Twitter.
Thank you very much. Oh, sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. I was just looking to see if there are any questions submitted through the Q&A. I don't see anything.
No,
yet.
no, there's no questions. I've got one question.
Sure.
When do you advise the customers to upgrade to 21C? Or is that a
So when do I? So I would say that if you have a workload that is mission critical, that is difficult to upgrade, that would take multiple months of testing and so forth to upgrade, then I would stay on 19C. And if you're not yet on 19C, I definitely would start planning to get onto 19C. 19C has extended support through 2027. Now, if you're developing a brand new application and there's some of the features that I've talked about that you want to take advantage of, then I would consider going to 21C for those kinds of applications. And then maybe even, if you have enhancements to existing applications that you want to be able to use those features, then 21C is something that you might want to consider. Depending on if you're running on the cloud or in the on-prem. If it's on-prem, then you'd need to wait for probably mid to late March timeframe, right? So let's say maybe April, is when you could start to seriously look at 21C on-prem. The only thing is, of course, 21C support ends in June 2023. And so if you have an application on 21C, then you'll have to plan for the upgrade to be done before that time. And the upgrade could be to 2022C, I guess, because 22C will be released the beginning of 2022, like sometime around January, February timeframe, 2022.
Okay, thank you.
I hope that answered your question. Okay, so I see a few questions coming in. Yes. Let's see here. Do you know if Python will make it to ML? Yes. So so JavaScript is our first language for the MLE, the multilingual engine. The next one will probably be Java, and then the one after that will be Python. And now Java and Python may come together in the same release, like possibly 22C, but that's the plan. So yes, we will continue to add more programming languages to MLE support. Let's see, the next question, so I'm gonna go ahead and answer that one. So next question is, how long before on-premise option will be available after on-cloud release? Okay, so yeah, like I said, we're looking at probably 4 months. So the cloud version, as I said, coming out sometime this week for the Autonomous Database free tier and the DBCS. Oh, by the way, I should caveat, the Autonomous Database free tier is available only in 4 regions. So it'll be available in Frankfurt, in London, and in the US in Phoenix and Ashburn. So those are the 4 Autonomous Database free tier regions that will have 21C, initially. So as far as on-prem, so I would say, we're looking at typically a 3 to 4 month gap between the cloud releases and the on-prem release. And you could say that that's probably what we're going to shoot for going forward. It's about, a 3 to 4 month gap. Okay, next one here. What about customers on Exadata? Okay, so yeah, so Exadata, 21C on Exadata will be out in the mid-March, late March timeframe, along with Linux. Can they install 21C when they have 2019C now? I'm guessing what you're saying is, can they install 21C if they already have 19C on Exadata? I mean, you can upgrade from 19C to 21C. There is, the upgrade utility will support that. I'm not sure if that's exactly what you mean. But, okay. Let's see the next one here. You mentioned the PMEM will be backward at 19C. Yeah, so I don't know which release update of 21C. So release updates are every quarter. So our next one will be actually January. So 21, our initial release will be 21.1, and then our next RU will actually be in January. I realize it's only like a month away in January, but it's because our RUs are January, April, July, and October. And so our 21.2 RU will be coming out in January. And 19C will also have an RU in January. I don't think the PMEM and backport will make it to the 19.10 RU. Probably the next one or the one after that. So yeah, but it'll be there. It'll definitely be there. Let's see, can the property graph tooling and machine learning tooling be used against 12C, 19C? Okay, that's a good question, because I don't know if we have a restriction with those tools on the database release. I want to say there's probably some dependency for the machine learning, the AutoML tool, because there may be some internal, hooks in 21C that we might need. But that would be something I'll note down as a question, and then I'll share the answer with the conference organizers so they can get it out to you guys. But I'll find out if there's a release dependency. I'm guessing yes, there's probably some, but let me make sure. Okay, so let me get to that. Okay. And let's see, any chance that the JSON binary data type will also get backported to 19C? So I'll tell you something, which is that the JSON binary data type is actually already in 19C. It's called the OSON format, OSON format, because as you probably know, we released the Autonomous JSON service, Autonomous JSON database service in August of this year, and Autonomous Database is running on 19C currently, right? So it is available there. We haven't officially supported a 19C, and you probably won't find really any documentation in there. There might be some blog posts out there, but generally we haven't documented it yet. We're still trying to figure out how best to I guess make this available in 19C. But so stay tuned. We're not quite sure, but this feature is there. It's just we haven't made it an official 19C feature. Okay, so I think one more question here. So which RDBMS version will be supported with 21C? Okay, cluster service. So, I have to get back to you on that one. Let me get back to you on that. So I'll get back to you on the dependency on the database release for the machine learning and graph tools, and then the 21C CRS support. Okay, so I'll get back to you on those. What is the new question? What is the long-term vision of Oracle over on-premise? Because Oracle has everybody to cloud. Yes, we honestly feel that the cloud, if you look at sort of the future of computing, the elasticity afforded by cloud computing, and just the fact that you can just forget about the infrastructure, the architecture, just focus on building the applications that you need to support your users, support your business. That is really the best model, and so that's where we're putting our energy. That's not to say that we're abandoning our on-prem customers, because as you see, we are making our database release available on-prem as well. It's just that if you look at the new capabilities and so forth, many of our capabilities are directed towards making the database run better in the cloud, and so that's something that just to keep in mind, that we will continue to support our on-prem customers, but our focus will continue to be making our database engine run better in the cloud. And those are all the questions that I see. That I think I've addressed all of them except for the two that I've taken as follow-ups.
Yes, what I can see is that there are no questions. And yeah, then I like to wrap it up. And I think we had a very good insight of 21C and the roadmap of Oracle.
Yeah, thank you so much, Luke, for inviting me. I really.
I'm joking, by the way. but Luke is the chairman. Yes.
Okay, sorry.
No problem. Especially I'm a DBA, former DBA, and especially I like the sharding is back on the table on the chart, and the data guard in the PDB. That's very nice features, and a lot of features you mentioned like SQL macro and REST database services and Apex. They're all part of the. Yeah, some presenters are presenting this week in the database week. So
okay, great.
We'll
learn more.
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. All right. Well, thank you all for listening in, and thank you very much for supporting Oracle in being our advocates. Thank you very much. All right. Have a great rest of the day, everybody.
Thank you very much. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.